Daybreak. Presented by Hannah Murray.
Good morning. We're going over to the States now to speak to Angela Middleton. She's the founder and chairman of Middleton Murray, an award-winning apprenticeship training provider. In the last 15 years, they've grown from one branch to 19 with offices all over the UK. Angela also runs iwanttobeer.com, an A to Z careers advice podcast for people wanting to find out about different careers. It's a great idea. Good morning, Angela.
Morning, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us. It's silly o'clock there, isn't it?
I know. I'm not here for very long, so I'm trying to keep UK time, so they woke me up at 11 p.m. with my breakfast. So, yeah, it's a bit confusing.
Brilliant.
Never mind.
So tell us a little bit about the history of Middleton Murray. When did you start it?
Well, I started it in 2002, and it was originally going to be a straightforward placement company, recruitment company, placing professionals. And to cut a very long story short, then we started to get more and more niche in terms of sort of the age group we work with, placing young people into their first jobs. So we just had a natural ability to do that. And then that moved into training. And then in about 2011, we started to become involved in apprenticeships. I could see that the whole apprenticeship model was going to take off in the UK. And over the last few years, we've become the leading provider of apprenticeships now for that age group across a large number of different professions, ones that wouldn't normally have been associated with apprenticeships, so HR, IT, marketing, finance. And it's been really successful and very rewarding. And that's why I'm over here, actually, in the States, because we're launching it here too, starting with San Francisco.
Oh, fantastic. Great stuff. So interesting that you're saying apprenticeships have expanded into other fields now. Why has that happened?
Well, I think a number of reasons, really. But I suppose, if you're looking at big picture from the government perspective, if you look at our productivity as a country, it's very, very low. Of the G7 countries, we're down at the bottom, third from the bottom, actually. And if you were to take London out of the equation, we would be practically at the bottom in terms of our productivity per head. And, if you start to delve into, number one, why is that important? Well, if we want to be, up there with the global leaders, then we have to be productive. And that means, GDP per head. And then if you start to look at why we don't achieve what we want to, it boils down to a few things, but the one at the top of the list is the lack of skills. And if you start looking at our skill levels, maths and English, they're very, very low in the UK still. And the second issue is that we have a higher population of what we call NEET, not in employment, education and training, when they leave school. And the reason for that is lack of careers advice. And youngsters, it's not that they're not able, but they just don't know what they want to do. So when they come to us, we have to start by getting them to really think about their future and their aspirations. And of course, aspirations are not just in traditional trades or academics. There's a whole variety of opportunities. And so I think the reason for producing apprenticeships to all of the different professions is it's another route in to young people into a whole variety of careers, not just the trades. And then if you look at the perspective from the employer, employers are looking for skills now they never were looking for even 3 years ago. The skill requirements are changing so dramatically. And if you look at the typical job board now and the fact that, there's any digital marketing executives, cybersecurity experts, things like that, we weren't recruiting for people like that and skills like that a few years ago. So the pace at which new skills are being demanded is really increasing. And so how do you get those skills? Well, you have to have things like vocational courses such as apprenticeships to be able to channel people into those new roles.
Yeah, interesting. It must be very rewarding as well, working in recruitment and helping people, helping young people particularly find their path. If they come to you and say, I've got no idea what I want to do, presumably you sit down with them and say, well, what are your interests? What are you good at? And kind of getting them to realise what would be a good career choice. That must be rewarding for you.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting and what we found has really worked over the years is that we don't really even although they come to us very much with an idea of, like, I must get a job, that's really basically how they're thinking, and the thousands come to us every year. I think they're normally quite surprised when we sit them down, because they're with us for 6 solid weeks before we put them anywhere near an employer, suited and booted and sort of in a work environment. And but they're in the classroom within our offices, and the very first week is all about visualisation, about how you want your life to be. So we start to get them to sort of look at their future self in 5 to 10 years' time, and start answering questions like, that person, where are they going to work? Is it outside or inside? Is it in this country? Is it in this city? What are they wearing? Who do they live with? Are they driving a car? What's the car like? Who do they go on holiday with? What hobbies do they have? And so building a real picture of them as an individual in the future. And it's only once they get very clear on, the sort of house they're going to live in and all things like that. Once we get a very clear picture for them like that, then we can start to talk to them about the types of careers that might fit in with that lifestyle. And we've made sense of the world of work by categorising different careers into 4 different categories, very broadly. So rather than having sort of million types of options, we're saying to them, okay, if you think about your life, there's care and education, where you were born, where you're educated, it's all schools and hospitals and all the careers related to that. And then, if you think about where you live and the fact that you go from A to B in vehicles, on roads and rail, well, that's all infrastructure and construction. So all the jobs associated with that, building big skyscrapers in Dubai, for example, would come into that, and being a surveyor. And then, there's another area which is when you're not actually at work or at home, you're participating in leisure and retail activities, theatre and cinemas and shops and things. So all the careers associated with that. And then, maybe you're in an office. Well, think about all the careers associated with an office, all the professions, the lawyers, the accountants, the digital experts, etc. So that's how we've made sense. And it's that piece then that starts to get them to think about their career, because we've created with them a vision for the future. The light bulbs go on, and they're very keen on achieving that future. And all we have to do then is show them how they can do it from A to B, really, and it works.
Absolutely. And I think your podcast is a great idea and a great way to inspire people as well. iwanttobea.com, with lots of great interviews with people in all kinds of different career choices.
Yeah, I mean, what's been really interesting there, and, we've only just started, really. There's so many different types of careers, and what I purposely wanted to do was to take the traditional professions as well as the non-traditional, and a variety of different ages. And there are some patterns. I've done a 35 episodes. I think 30 are out so far. And there's a real pattern developing that you see amongst everybody, really. What you see is that it's quite rare for people to know right at the beginning what they want to do ultimately. And if they do, it tends to be the creative people, the singer, for example, the filmmaker, and they can remember being, right from a very early age, having a drive to do that. And also, I think another thing that is very interesting is that when people end up in their current career, it's almost, even if they didn't know they wanted to do it, when they look back, they realise that there was some sort of inner calling for them to do it. Even though they didn't realise it. The author, for example, she remembers always being one to write little stories and read them out to a class. And, the journalist, he was always very, very much writing home lengthy letters. The youth leader, he was sadly the recipient of sort of youth leadership because he had such a sad childhood. And but there's these things in their background that they can look back and go, that's why I was drawn to this. Diversity is another good thing as well. If you look at the model, for example, she really struggled with bullying. If you look at the fashion merchandiser, she struggled at school. It turned out she was dyslexic, but it was never diagnosed. The PT, she suffered with postnatal depression, and so it was only when she found exercise that, the PT, the personal trainer, only when she found exercise that she started to sort of get through that person which she had. So That's an interesting pattern. And there's another one, which is that I think practically everybody I interviewed, they say at some stage, oh yeah, and then I was really lucky because I got this opportunity. And what you always see is actually it wasn't luck. It's because they were focused, and they were trying. You know, they had in mind what they wanted to do. And that's how they end up finally getting their break. And everybody looks back and thinks, oh, I was really lucky to get that. So there's lots of patterns that are coming through, and it's really great sometimes it's great when you're doing that interview, to draw that to someone's attention and you see them realise it for the first time. And that's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's a great idea, especially for young people coming out of college and university, and for anyone who needs inspiration. iwanttoba.com is the website, and there's middletonmurray.com as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, to get hold of the podcast, you have to go on iTunes and you can download it from there for free. And the reason for doing it really was that, as I said at the beginning, you know, when kids are coming out of school, they just don't know what they want to do. And I think one of the issues with careers advice at schools is, number one, teachers are too pressed for time, and number two, they don't have the expertise anyway. And by putting it out there on iTunes, you know, people can download it at any time, at any place, on their mobile phone or whatever. They could maybe be with their parents and then discuss the options with their parents, sitting around the dinner table, or they might just be on the bus and want to download it and listen. You know, they're thinking maybe they do want to be, let's say, a digital publisher. Well, how do they go about that? Well, they can listen to somebody who actually did that and can talk to them about what it's like to do that job, and not just that, but if they want to follow in their footsteps, how they can go about that. And, you know, it's so diverse as well. So I think, you know, in this day and age when youngsters can download things in the middle of the night, you know, which is when they tend to want to read stuff or look at stuff, and they're all going over to consume digital content now. They're not looking at traditional media so much anymore. I think that's where we have to put the information for them to be able to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's been lovely to chat with you, Angela Middleton. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, it's very welcome. Thanks for talking to me. Bye.
TRE.radio